Hello, hello, and welcome back to Temptation's Ballad, in which will probably be like a 2-minute episode. I don't know. I feel like this chapter is gonna end right after this scene, and I cowered it out by not doing it. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. Artemi's brow furrowed. Okay. These were rather unpleasant memories to dwell up. Her mother's furious face, the shouting, the sheer anxiety of her heart pounding against her chest, and the frigid cold threatening to take her as she desperately clutched a tiny, flickering candle to her chest. Yo, calm down. that was loud. The world suddenly went white. The pit of her stomach lurched as well, as she was falling a great height. Artemi squeezed her eyes shut and buried her head in her hands. The world was spinning around her in a kaleidoscope of colors. What was happening? A pair of hands seized her, and everything suddenly steadied. Artemi felt her feet in the ground. In a stumble to steady herself. Wait. Yes, I understand. Her eyes flicked open. The first thing that hit her was just how bright and cold everything was. This is really loud in my ears. It looks good on the levels, I think that's fine, but wow, I left my computer volume up way too high. Artemi shielded her face from the buffeting? Snow and wind? Huh. But harsh light reflecting off every pale surface made the world almost blinding. What is this place? Agatha stood beside her, taking in the sight with awe. This is your mindscape, a mental construction of your subconscious. To the surprise of no one, magic is greatly affected by the emotional state of the user. My plan was to research for any anomalous signs. The bat shivered and pressed her wings close for warmth. Most mindscapes I've seen were abstract reconstructions of hometowns or sentimental locations. Suffice to say, I've never seen one in the middle of a blasted snowstorm before. Artemi felt a lump form in her throat as she scanned her surroundings. The forest was uncomfortably familiar, right down to the snow roiling across the land. Small frozen candles littered the riverbank as far as the eye could see. Is there anything you wanted to talk about, Chosen One? Got some sorta deep-seated love for the snowstorm or something? Artemi shook her head quietly. I never liked the cold. Agatha snorted. That all you got for me? It's fine, no need to share more than you're comfortable with. For now, let us focus on that. The enchanter stabbed a finger towards a blindingly bright stream beside them. A flecks of celestial light flickered across its surface like frozen fireflies. A liquid gold carved across the snowfield with a delicate flow. I believe that is the flow of your celestial strength. If my hunch is correct, we will find the answer to our concerns if we follow it upstream. This is the source of my strength? Yes, a mental representation of it, at least. Things look rather normal enough. There's nothing here that explains why your magic would go out of control in a moment of tension. It is strange, though. Perhaps it is because I've never studied a creator's chosen before, but the whole situation feels very Agatha pauses and scratched her chin. No, no. Let's avoid jumping to conclusions. Come along, Artemi. Let us see where this leads. The two made their way upstream, struggling to trek through the frozen riverside of biting wind. Artemi did her best to ignore the many candles that littered the land, and the small trail of children-sized footprints trailing into the woods. As they walked, her curiosity slowly got the better of her. Miss Agatha? What caught your attention earlier? Did you notice something strange? The enchanter's brow furrowed. As a professional, I shouldn't make any early assumptions. Please, I insist. This is my mind and body, after all. I would like to know what bothers you so. I'm not sure how to put this, but there are aspects of your magical foundation that feel artificial. Artificial? There are traces of external meddling with your mindscape, as though its current form has been influenced in some way. If my hunch is correct, there should be more visible signs. The enchanter scratched her chin and slowly drifted off to her own thoughts. I suspect that, somewhere along this little river, we will find the source of your woes. Miss Agatha? Sure. I, might just be misreading things. You are the creator's chosen, I've studied. But something here just feels off. Miss Agatha, I'm kinda surprised by the lack of lighting, too. That's the sort of thing, isn't it? Miss Agatha! Artemi nudged the distracted researcher, her eyes trained skyward in awe. What is it? Have you found something? Agatha followed her gaze and froze. Squinting through what she thought were the blinding rays of the sun through the thick cloud of snow, the sight before her took her breath away. Artemi, what is that? The massive shadow was a massive stone dam loomed above as far as the eye could see. Near the base, a torrent of water spilling from a crack in the wall, forming into a small golden stream that flowed across the snowy forest. And as they strained their gaze above the stone visage, the sky split open, unleashing a cascade of celestial light upon the land that pooled into a brilliant golden sea that spanned the horizon. The sheer brilliance of the sight almost hurt to look upon. And holding back this rampant flood of celestial magic was the single ragged stone dam. This dam, which at first sight felt immense in its own right, was utterly dwarfed by the colossal task. Artemi let out a breath she did not realize she was holding. What is this? The enchanter looked as stunned as she was. Agatha took a few stumbling steps forward and pressed her palm against the cold stone structure. Is this the true capability of the creator's chosen? No, impossible. It feels too artificial, too vast. Someone has been pulling strings to create the situation within you. This massive pool of celestial magic is in no way natural. A flash of lavender light envelops Agatha's palm as she scanned the magic around her. The researcher's brow furrowed. And not just someone, either. Several separate parties have been sticking their hands where they don't belong. A slow, creeping dread shivered down Artemi's spine. What? What are you saying? The old bat fell silent as she continued studying her surroundings. She turned towards Artemi, carefully weighing her words. According to my observations of lingering arcane magic here, it appears that two opposing parties have been manipulating you. For what purpose, I cannot say. The first party seems to have gotten their claws on you very early. I dare say that they have been pulling strings since your birth. Agatha jabbed a finger toward the cascading waterfall of celestial magic pouring from the sky. That looks a bit loud on the levels. I shall lower that just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just to make me feel a little comfortable. This is just conjecture, but I believe this group endeavored to turn you into the largest reservoir of celestial energy the world has ever seen. The sheer amount... oh my god. That's fine, don't worry about that. The sheer amount of raw power here is ridiculous. No mere mortal should be able to contain this. Agatha turned and taped her knuckles against the stone dam. Then, at some point, a second party got involved and created this. They somehow placed an arcane inhibitor within you, thus preventing any of this excess magic from escaping. And this inhibitor seems deeply tied to your emotional state. The researcher's gaze narrowed. If I were to hazard a guess. Tell me, Artemi, in your youth, did you perhaps have a lot of trouble drawing on your power as the Creator's chosen? Were you unable to cast even the most basic spells, no matter how hard you tried? Artemi bit back a wave of nausea swimming up her throat. That's correct. Yes, that would be due to this arcane inhibitor preventing any magic from escaping you. And it's held fast throughout your youth, despite this absolute massive sea of celestial energy. Then, and let me guess, a few years down the line, you experienced something rather unsettling. More unsettling and overwhelming than you could bear. The researcher's voice dipped as she traced her hand across the jagged crack in the dam's wall. And during this incident, your magic went out of control for the first time. I'd imagined it was a rather explosive in nature, after being repressed for so long. After this incident, this crack formed in the inhibitor, allowing you to finally harness a fraction of your power as the Creator's chosen. Artemi squeezed her eyes shut and quietly nodded. The blizzard's chill was slowly seeping through her armor and bit through her flesh like knives. You have the right of it. She lifted her head. Tell me frankly, Miss Agatha. Since I was born, I was told that I was chosen by the Creator, and it was my duty to serve the church and the city's people from a disaster unseen. And thus, dedicate every moment of my life training and improving myself for this duty. It was all I knew. She turned towards the blinding cascade in the sky. A sickening feeling filled her chest. Are you saying that, all this time, I was simply a pawn in an unknown party's game? Was my duty and life, up to this point, just a cruel lie? Was it all just to create this thing inside me? Agatha fell silent. She reached up to grasp Artemi's trembling hand with a sympathetic smile. Well, I don't know about this whole destined, chosen one business. We researchers tend to be a secular bunch. But I can definitely say that, despite this whole mess, you've grown into a fine knight and a kind young woman. The researcher smiled gently. Regardless of your origin, anyone would be proud to have you by their side. I think your little adventurer friends will eagerly to attest to that. Artemi didn't look up, but she tried to force a small smile. The old bat sighed and tightened her grip around Artemi's hands. That being said, as a professional, I will have to ask you to be cautious in the future. This inhibitor, this dam, its resilience is directly tied to your emotional state. If you were to experience another traumatic or emotional distressing in the future, there's a high chance that this dam will break in its entirety. What? What would happen to me if this dam broke? Oh, how do I even describe it? Frankly, with all the celestial energy erupting all at once, it'd be like a bomb going off. Agatha adjusted her glasses and grumbled. As much as I hate to admit it, perhaps Katrina's decision to shelter you was wise, in a way. Should I return to the cathedral? Oh, hell no! Right after an argument like that. Get out of there, and stay with some friends who actually care about you. And maybe reevaluate the people in your life, and decide who you really ought to trust. The old bat sighed. That's probably a decision best made another time, when you have a clear mind. Let's get out of here, shall we? I think we've both spent a bit too much time stuck in your head. Artemi was grateful to feel the rush of light and snow disappearing from her senses as she was drawn back into the waking world, like surfacing from deep water. She blinked, the exhaustion from her eyes looked up. Agatha's kind, spectacled eyes stared back, still gripping her hands with a gentle squeeze. Are you all right? No, to be perfectly frank. What do I do now? Nothing makes sense anymore. She felt the researcher sigh and pull her into a firm, comforting hug. Oh, my dear girl, that's probably a question best left for another day. Go to some trustworthy friends and rest up. Face a new day with fresh eyes. Nothing will get done when you're so disheveled and shaken. Artemi rested her head against the old bat's shoulder. Her head hurt, a storm of thoughts and worry swam through her mind. Where would I even begin to solve this? Hush, hush. Rest for tonight. Agatha paused as she gently patted her back. Although, she let out a conflicted sigh. There is much I want to tell you, but, like I mentioned earlier, today, my hands are tied. If you ever need an answer, however, I recommend you look into the abandoned 13th laboratory in the Magistry District. It was there that I and the royal family conducted much of their private research. There is some valuable information that you may find useful. Of course, you have to trespass and break into royal family property, but I'm sure your friends can figure it out. The old bat cleared her throat loudly. Oh, I think I've kept you long enough, dear girl. Go and get some rest. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'll be happy to lend my ear. Artemi nodded numbly. The researcher wasn't sure if the knight had even heard her. Concern gripped her chest as she watched Artemi pull herself out of their hug and stumble onto her feet. I will be off then. Thank you for your time, Miss Agatha. Agatha watched quietly as the knight staggered down the street, her small slouched figure disappearing into a dim night. The gentle smile across the researcher's face fell as Artemi ambled out of earshot. She slowly adjusted her glasses and stared off into the darkness. Show yourself. I know you're watching. Out of the corner of her eye, the shadow across the cobblestone street shifted and withered like a mass of cloth in the wind. Oh, my dear host, you've certainly caught my curiosity. I dare say your concern for the girl almost sounded genuine. The hair on the back of Agatha's neck prickled like a biting chill. She glared, her voice low and cold. That's none of your business. More importantly, what on earth had you gotten yourself into this afternoon? I thought I told you to keep out of trouble. Oh, I tried, but that's so boring. I didn't travel all the way to the material plane to just sit at the sideline during a festival. And I was even thoughtful enough to track down my little brother and his host for you. The demon chuckled. It would seem my idiot brother has gotten quite attached to his little mortal. We won't be convincing him to part with that hyena anytime soon. Agatha glared. Fool, I told you not to hurt him. Nay, you specifically said, don't kill him. That's quite a difference. The empty hood of Zelos, Zelos's form tilted its head curiously. Why do you even care about the little twerp anyhow? Have you grown attached to your estranged experiment? Why do you care about any of these kids? Agatha growled and cut her off. I will not be heckled by a reckless, dismembered head. If you had a modicum of restraint, perhaps you wouldn't have been reduced to your current pathetic form. You've delayed the plan significantly. Agatha adjusted her glasses. How long until you recover to your full power, demon? From injuries like this? Oh, probably a day or so. Very well. We strike the day after tomorrow. Oh. Market dish thing. Okay. I'll end the part here. I really don't know how long this build is. Holy shit. I don't know. It's exciting though. I'll see you all around though.